In modern Counter-Strike, the best way to become a professional is to work your way up through the rise of academy teams. The method of grinding to achieve FPL is outdated in 2026. That is why I'm joined by two head coaches of academy teams that are on the quest to find new superstars for their main teams. If you want to become one or simply interested in finding out how it works, sit tight and enjoy. We want to create a blueprint or a path that should help you become a better player and maybe even a professional. So, where do you start? Well, back in my days, everything led to FPL, an exclusive league where only the best players in the region competed in a fun, chaotic and high-paced PUG environment. In the latter, you could win a lot of money, people were streaming it, networking, and yes, this was a gateway for young players to get noticed. This is how I and 99% of others broke through. But now, FPL lost its charm, so it begs the question, is the FACEIT grind dead? What should players aim for to get noticed?
For a newer player, I think, of course, just playing FACEIT and getting noticed is still the way. It's the easiest way. If you're individually good enough, you will always get noticed. So the current FPL is not what it used to be. Yeah. So there's no interesting players that we could look at even from FPL because all of them are already signed under a contract, or people don't really play FPL. So it's just mostly about looking at the leaderboards, looking at a set ELO range, for example, of what we want to look at. In general, the leaderboards of FACEIT.
So now we know FACEIT is still go-to platform. You won't get famous by playing Premier or matchmaking. But at what point do you start to become interesting for academies? How much ELO would you need to have to even be considered?
Almost every single profile up until 2,900 ELO. So that's thousands of profiles. And from there, I kind of had to pick and choose, because we have all these players with who might not fit our criteria of who we want to have. So, for example, we had age criteria, or we had this and that. We want to get some younger players. So it's quite fast that you can throw away a lot of these profiles. But then when you do find these young kids that you want to look at, then you go and look at their stats, of course. Then you go watch their demos. Are they mechanically good? Does it look like they understand something? And then you go and interview them or talk to them or whatever.
Now, you might ask, what should I do if I don't perform well in these PUGs? And you struggle a bit in this individual approach, are you cooked? Well, not really. There is an alternative that can produce much more complete player.
Like there's kind of two pathways. One of them is just grinding like the individual game, which is grinding FACEIT and getting a high ELO. You can be very good individually, you can have very high FACEIT ELO, but there are things that you need to learn to become a professional team player, basically. And these things he might be, well, with his individual level, he's probably still ahead of the curve, but it's still going to take him a long time to train this. And to give you like a very similar case, but I'll take someone from my own team. We have this 14-year-old kid called Cloud9, and this guy is Danish. He's been playing already in teams, I think probably since he's been like 12 or something like this. And he is very developed already, in my opinion, in terms of team play, in terms of communication, in terms of like things that make you good outside of FACEIT.
Sharing the scouting process is always going to be rather tricky, but I managed to squeeze out some interesting information. So when you think about it, ELO and statistics play a huge role, how interesting you are. But as we all know, not all roles in Counter-Strike are able to put up great numbers. So I was wondering, is this heavily biased to players in star positions and opers? And what about all those anchors or even IGLs?
I think it's a really interesting question. I quite like it. And what you mentioned is so interesting to me because one of the hardest things you can do in Counter-Strike is finding an in-game leader for an academy team.
That's what I want to ask. How does this search for candidates look like? Can you share a little bit of your scouting process? So, presumably for star players, you look at the ELO of Europe players in FACEIT. But what about IGLs? Do you actually reach out individually to players, or are you still going by the ELO measure? What's the deal there?
Yeah. So I mean, definitely with the star players, it could be things like FACEIT ELO. One thing that is a little fortunate in my case also is that I'm well connected in the CS space because I've been in it for a long time. So I have other academy coaches write me about my trials or players that I'm keeping an eye on and stuff like that. And I keep the names to myself if I think it's someone I might pick. But I also write the other academy coaches like, hey, I'm looking for this role. I'll write my old agent, Jerome, as you know, of course, from Prodigy. I'll write my current agent, Gustavo, and I'll just like ask around a little bit. What makes finding an IGL for an academy team difficult is that IGL is a role that you touched on it kind of, but you don't have that much statistics to look at. And the main thing for IGLs is you want to judge them based on their communication, their ability to lead, and this type of thing. And that's extremely difficult with young players because you rarely, first of all, rarely do young players want to be IGLs. Secondly, if they do, they typically get snatched up super fast because, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't?
There's a big demand for it, right? And low supply.
Big demand. Yeah, you need one for each team, right? And IGL is definitely a role where if you work on it early, you'll be way ahead of everyone else.
It's a great angle to boost your chances of getting picked up. Roles matter, and scouting is all about finding the right fit. Being a leader is about experience, which these young players never have. But if they start gaining it so early in their career, we might see a huge uptick and breakthrough in how this role develops in the future. And maybe watching this video will inspire those youngsters to become one. Now let's talk about a buzzword that probably makes a lot of players anxious. You get asked for an actual meeting or an interview with your potential first team. It's normal to feel stressed, but it's also important to be prepared. And in this chapter, I want to ask, how does this interview look like? What can you do to actually prepare well and leave a good impression instead of fumbling the chance away?
So when I call it an interview, it's more about we're having a chat and I'm getting to know how you are, what kind of a person you are. Would you be a good fit for the academy project? Do you have the same goals in mind? Do you have this sort of stuff? So it's not about having the correct answers per se, you know, but it is about if I can sense that there's a little bit of like confidence lacking or there's some things not right, then you're probably not the best fit for us.
Okay, so what are you looking for? What qualities are you looking for? And I understand that this differs from role to role and whatever you need in the team, but are there some constants that will always strike you as, yes, this player is good?
The first thing I notice is motivation. If you are interested in talking to me, even before the interview, if you are responding to me on Steam, hey, how are you doing? Oh, nice that you reach out, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, you're instantly more interesting. If you're saying, hello, question mark, what's up, question mark, or something like this, it's like, okay, are you really interested? Or if you're giving me like one word answers, okay, yes, this sort of stuff, I can't really get anything out of you, right? So it instantly kind of leans me towards somebody else. So it's very interesting that, or important that you're very straightforward. You don't lie, of course, and then you just show that you are very interested and you want to be there.
And there are some techniques that some people might pull on you during interview without you actually realizing it. We go over those topics and many other in those two interviews with Dota and Natos Apeks, which are uploaded in full unfiltered format here on my channel for members. There is a lot of extra content for those who support this channel every month, and you can become member too for just $4.99. But now let's hear what would happen if you interview for Falcons Academy.
I think the number one thing is I want to find out if they are coachable. And it's something I had very little focus on when I was a player. But there's a very big difference. When I say coachable, it's just how do they take feedback, basically. And I think it's a normal thing to look for. But when I was a player, I want to say one of, if not my biggest weakness, was that I didn't handle I didn't handle criticism very well. A lot of the times I took it very personal, and I think I always, when people said you shouldn't do this, I would say, oh yeah, but I did it because of blah, blah, blah. And people would take that as me being defensive, when to me it was just a case of, I just want them to understand why I made that choice. I didn't make it as in like to do something stupid. It was not a conscious choice to fuck up around, you know?
Yeah.
But people took that the wrong way, and I'm sure I did it wrong as well. But now I'm better on this, I think, and I'm looking for that in my players as well.
Hooray! Welcome to the team, but you suck. It's mind-blowing, but most of the things you learned so far will have to be adjusted. Suddenly you have a coach, proper structure, and a teammates, and every bad habit you learned have to be either forgotten or relearned to fit the team game. This is where constant stream of new information and feedback can be so overwhelming that it boils into frustration. This frustration with yourself or your peers or a coach has to be your main fuel and motivation. There are a lot of challenges that are about to hit you, so let's ask about some of those most common ones and equip you with tools how to prepare and deal with them.
We have a 15-year-old Slovakian, Herdina, in our academy. And he's very fresh. He has not played in a lot of teams. I think this was the first real team for him. And it's the biggest difference for him is just to learn the team etiquette. He needs to learn, okay, how do you go from practice to team management to time management to everything in between. He needs to learn kind of what it is like to be a semi-professional or a professional player. There's a lot of things to learn, and of course I can help in most of that, but it's mostly just the team stuff. Also, these guys don't really know how to play real team CS, so that's the biggest thing that I'm changing and teaching them how to play. Default, for example, is the biggest challenge in all these teams.
I don't want to have to force you to work. I don't want to, have to work on your attitude more than your game, this type of thing. So like, when you're in Falcons, you're getting paid to play the game. It is a mix of fun and work, and you're expected to treat it like it's important and like it's work. I have also, sorted out a lot of players due to them being or seeming not that interested.
Attitude is a big factor that especially young players are sometimes unable to grasp. However, these problems transfer in game too.
Face-it player and a team player, to me, are I think like the most important is this thing I call kind of face-it mistakes, which is mostly over peaking. Again, I'll draw some parallels between NIP and my current team, but like in NIP, I was working with women, and they are very good at, if you create a system, they want to stay within it. Very by the book and stuff like this. So they like, I'd say, structure. And if you tell them something, like make a rule, they won't break it, basically. My current team, it took me 2 months or something before I realized, like, it's not one guy who's over-peaking, it's everyone. So we had to have like a full week where we just only talked about how to play good defensive Counter-Strike. And I think these face-it mistakes that I see the most that I try to avoid is if you have a 4 versus 1 or 4 versus 2 or this type of thing. Most of the times it's better to get information on the remaining players rather than taking a straight-up duel. And I remember there was one guy in the trials, for example, who was recommended to me by an active pro, said this guy might be next up. I tried him, he was actually pretty good, but there was a specific round on Ancient, it was like a 4v2, where the CTs actually had good position or something like that. We knew there was one T in Heaven, and then the guy pushed out from Donut and started taking fights towards Heaven from like almost elbow, and then he died. And then I honestly can't remember if we lost the round or not, but just from that round alone, I could just tell this guy doesn't know how to play advantages very well, and that's something that's going to take time to learn. And if this would happen in official, I mean, especially with the level you've been playing at, you know this type of mistake is inexcusable, basically.
It's a red flag.
It's a very red flag, yeah. And it's not something you can't change or learn, but it just takes time. And academy teams would preferably spend the least amount of time developing players. If you're very good, that's better, of course.
In gaming, age is this sacred number that is sometimes too important. Yet it makes sense that in academy teams during development, you want to hit as young players as possible to jumpstart their career. So I thought everyone above 18, maybe 19 is simply too late to join academies. Majority of you watching this channel are players in mid-20s. So I asked on your behalf, are you too late?
Academies try to do things different. So, for example, a big academy right now, I happened to check yesterday, they have an average age of like 20.3 or 20.4, and it's actually down. I think it was like 22 or something. So I think like some academies are academies in the sense that they want to develop players that they could potentially sell, but not academies as in like they want to build the next superstar, if that makes sense. Like they're not picking players who are 15.
Yeah.
And I think that is somehow tied also to the main team. I haven't checked the average age of big, but I mean, you have at least Blamef right now, who's I think 28. You have Tapson.
Tapson is really...
Who's pushing Onk status if he isn't already, just like me.
Just like all of us.
Yeah, yes, it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah, so I think one of the almost disadvantages in my case is that Falcons are so good, but when you look at their team, Nico is pushing Onk status as well. But other than that, I think Kixan is like 25. In my team specifically, you have like Monesi and Kusuke, right, that are very young. And then even Tissus isn't that old.
Yeah.
So the issue that I was facing a little bit was, for me to sign an AWP, it has to be someone who is very good, but also young enough that Monesi at some point can feel the pressure. And it's really difficult to pressure someone like Monesi. The same way Spirit Academy want to find the next dunk so that they can pressure dunk. What you said, basically, like light a fire under him. And with Kusuke, for example, I mean, good luck finding a younger guy who is anywhere near his skill level, who is available. It's impossible. So in my case, I had to go very young because the team is very young. But in Big's case, they can afford to go older with the academy because the main team is older as well. Look at Mouse and XT. They're actually doing really well, but they have very young players as well. And that's also because many of their main team players are very young. So for them to be pressured, there needs to be someone who's very young and also showing promise. But some academy teams, like Big Academy, is almost old enough to be a main team.
So yeah, with the average age of teams increasing, it makes sense that academy teams are also increasing their thresholds. Maybe in the future it will be quite normal to have more teams in the pipeline, like youth team, which Navi already pushed for. So this creates fine opportunity that you do not have to compare yourself to 15 years olds. Be on your own path with your own pace. The opportunities to make it are clearly increasing. So what should you start doing right now? You get a golden opportunity to hear from these two coaches what you need to start doing, applying or focusing on in your Faceit games to not only join a team, but to simply improve, become better. This is ultimately what this video is about, and here are actionable things you can do in your next queue right after you finish watching this video.
The main thing in Faceit games you should do if you wanna become better and be attracted to a team is actually you should stop focusing so much on yourself and start focusing more on what makes you win. Many young players are very statistics based, and I think very few coaches are. Stats tell part of the story, but not all of the story. I tell my players this as well. Stats is a sort of guideline, but I, as a coach, I know which of my players I think is playing the best, and it might not be the guy who has the best stats. It could be, it might not be. It's more valuable to learn how to gain elo by learning how to maximize winning than gaining elo by maximizing individual skill. you learn more that way.
I think if you can have the fundamentals of using nades for helping your teammates, having good, like decent comms, understanding the rotations, like if you can have everything at a base level, and then you have something like aim that is exceptionally good for you. It's usually the profile that we look for, because we can easily teach a lot of these things. I know that I can teach a lot of these things. Mechanical skills, it's hard to teach. It's something that you either kind of have it or you don't. I think my opinion about it is you cannot train it. You cannot train to be Scream, for example. You cannot practice deathmatch and be Scream, but you can practice all these different things, and you can be the game sense of Saiwu, for example. You can have that if you practice enough and learn.
So both of these answers circle around similar topic in a way. Being able to somehow influence those around you in a good way is a secret that helps you perform. If you are using utility in a proper and supportive way, if your comms are solid, stop focusing so much on yourself. If you carry your games but others can't play well because you're either toxic or an asshole or require too much resources, you won't be able to replicate this in a real team, because these are red flags in any serious organization, and they will spot them early. I feel like in this video we tapped in a lot of hidden knowledge that might not be too obvious when you are dreaming of becoming a professional player, and I feel like if this gets to right people, it can literally be the difference maker between making it or breaking it. If you have someone in your circle that you think this video will help, please share it with them, and I want to extend my thanks to both Falcons and Heroic to allow this talk to be recorded and published. Socials of both coaches are in the description, and thanks for watching until the end. If you like this video, chances are you will love the blueprint for a strat book I created for young teams, as it's a perfect tool to stay organized and track your progress with your stack. Video is right here. I am humbled by your support of this channel. The growth of my content is driven purely by you, and that is why I'm asking you to double check if you're subscribed to me. It's free, it's simple, and thanks to that I'm able to reach even more players from different regions who wish to get better or simply enjoy listening to my educational content. With that, I promise that 2026 will be the year when I elevate my videos even further, and I hope you join me on this journey. Thank you. Shout out to you, all of my Patreons and Coffee members, for your continual support. It allows me to create more content like this. Your name is on the screen right now as a little token of appreciation. I used Coffee for years, where you can find extra content and perks at various tiers of membership, but due to popular demand, I set up Patreon too. Nothing changes, both platforms are treated equally, with same content, it's just for your convenience to use whichever side you prefer. Thank you for making my videos better and possible.